The smell of jet fuel never really leaves you. After 8 months in the Middle East, I was convinced it had permanently embedded itself into my skin, my hair, the back of my throat. But standing at the baggage claim in Denver International Airport at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind anything. I was home. My name is Marcus Webb, 26 years old, Army Infantry, 3rd deployment. I'd been overseas since late February, and the original rotation wasn't supposed to end until mid-December. But a reshuffling of assignments, a fortunate paperwork cascade, and one very understanding commanding officer had combined to send me home a full 6 weeks early. I hadn't told anyone. That was intentional mostly. My mom had a heart condition, and I didn't want to get her hopes up in case something changed last minute. My girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend now, but that's a story for a different night, had ended things around month 3 of the deployment, and my roommate, Danny Kowalski, was the kind of guy who would have thrown a party so elaborate that I'd have come home to confetti in the ceiling fan and a dozen strangers. Passed out on my couch, Danny and I had been friends since freshman year at Fort Collins. We weren't military brothers. He'd never served. But we had the kind of friendship that survives distance, difference, and years of each other's worst habits. He was a graphic designer who worked remotely, drank too much Red Bull, and had a borderline obsessive relationship with his houseplants. I trusted him with my apartment, my mail, and my spare key without a second thought. The Uber dropped me off at 12:14 a.m. I remember checking my phone. The street was quiet, our building's lobby lights dim but on. I hauled my duffel up the 2 flights of stairs, feeling every hour of the 31-hour travel day in my knees and shoulders. I just wanted a shower, a real shower, with water pressure that didn't feel like someone spitting at you, and then maybe 8 hours of unconsciousness on a mattress that wasn't designed by the lowest bidder. I slid the key into the lock. The apartment was dark except for the warm amber glow coming from the living room, the standing lamp. Danny always kept on a low setting when he stayed up late working. I could hear something, soft music or video, something quiet and low coming from that direction. I pushed the door open and dropped my duffel in the entryway. "Danny, it's me. Don't freak out." There was a crash, something small and light hitting the floor. A remote control, it turned out. Then silence. I reached around the corner and hit the overhead light. Danny was standing in the middle of the living room in a sweatshirt and pajama pants, and he looked like he'd just been caught robbing a bank. His face had gone a particular shade of pale that I associated with people who just received genuinely terrible news. His eyes were wide. His mouth was slightly open. On the coffee table in front of him was my laptop, a half-eaten sleeve of crackers, and what appeared to be roughly 47 handwritten index cards, spread out in some kind of elaborate grid pattern. "Marcus." His voice came out strange, thin. You weren't supposed to see this." I looked at him. I looked at the index cards. I looked back at him. "Danny, what's going on?" He didn't answer right away. He bent down and picked up the remote he'd knocked over, fidgeting with it in a way that told me he was buying seconds. I walked further into the room and looked more carefully at the index cards. They were covered in his handwriting, that cramped left-handed scrawl I'd known for years, and as my eyes adjusted and started reading, I felt something shift in my chest. Marcus's first day at Fort Collins, the one where he got lost looking for the registrar and ended up in the wrong building for 2 hours. The camping trip junior year, Marcus's tent collapsed in the rain, and he slept in Danny's car and refused to admit he was grateful. January 2021. Marcus calls from Georgia at 2 a.m. saying he got his deployment orders. Doesn't say he's scared, but he is. The thing Marcus said when he came home from the second deployment. "I don't think I remember how to be a person here." Said it like a joke. Wasn't a joke. I stopped reading. I looked up at Danny. He was watching me with that expression, the one I'd seen exactly twice before in our 8 years of friendship. The first time was when his dad passed away junior year. The second was when he told me his last serious relationship had ended and he'd spent a weekend alone and hadn't been okay. It was an expression that meant something real was happening. "It's a speech," he said finally. "Or it's notes for a speech. Or I don't know what it is yet." He ran a hand through his hair. "There's this Veterans Recognition Dinner, the one the city does every November. My boss is on the planning committee and she asked if anyone wanted to submit something. A tribute, a reading, whatever, and I thought..." He stopped, started again. "I've been working on it for 3 weeks. It's about you. I mean, it's not just about you. It's about what it actually looks like. From the other side. The people who stay home and watch someone they care about go somewhere dangerous and just wait, and don't say the things they should say, and act like everything's normal because they don't know what else to do." The room was very quiet. "You've been doing this for 3 weeks, I said. "Yeah." "On my laptop?" He looked mildly embarrassed. "Mine's been in the shop. I figured you wouldn't mind. I've been careful. Danny. I know it probably seems... Can I read it?" He blinked. "What?" "The cards. Can I read them? All of them?" He stood there for a moment like he was trying to calculate something. Then, quietly, he said, "Yeah, okay, yeah, you can." I sat down on the couch and started at the beginning, at the card he'd labeled 1 in, the top left corner, and I read, through all of it. It took maybe 20 minutes. Danny disappeared into the kitchen and came back with 2 glasses of water and then sat in the armchair across from me and didn't say anything, which was, if I'm being honest, one of the more generous things he'd ever done. The speech, if that's what it was about waiting, about what it feels like to be the one who stays. How you learn to not look at your phone in a certain way because the checking becomes its own kind of anxiety loop. How you have a version of the conversation where you tell someone their friend is gone, and you run through it sometimes without meaning to, late at night, just to see if you could survive it. How the ordinary days feel guilty, the good meals, the easy weekends, the moments of happiness, because somewhere on the other side of the world, someone you love is eating bad food and sleeping badly and carrying weight you can't help carry. There was a section about the last time I left, how Danny had driven me to the processing station and made exactly the kind of dumb jokes you make when you're trying not to say the things you actually mean. How he'd shaken my hand in the parking lot, shaken my hand, like we were business associates. And then, driven home and sat in the apartment and understood, for the first time, that the silence had a different quality now. That the absence of a person isn't the same as the absence of a sound. I set the last card down. I didn't say anything for a while. "It's good," I said finally. "It's really good, Danny." He let out a breath. "It's not done. The handshake part is good." He made a face. "I knew you'd find that." We shook hands like we'd just closed a business deal. I panicked. "You had your bag and I..." He stopped. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to make it a whole thing. "I know." I picked up one of the cards and looked at it again. "I didn't know it hit you like this. The deployments. You never asked." That landed. Not harshly. He didn't say it with any edge. But it landed true. "No," I said. "I didn't. I wasn't going to bring it up. I figured you had enough to carry over there without worrying about me being weird about it back here. You're not weird about it." "I definitely am." "Okay, you're a little weird about it, I..." Leaned back against the couch cushions and looked up at the ceiling. My ceiling. The one with the small water stain in the corner that we'd been meaning to report to the landlord for 2 years. "I'm glad I came home early." "I'm glad you came home, period," Danny said. "Early, late, whatever." We sat in the kind of quiet that doesn't need to be filled. Outside, a car passed on the street. The lamp cast its familiar amber warmth across the room. "You should finish it," I said. "The speech." "Yeah?" "Yeah, submit it." I paused. "Just maybe don't read the handshake part out loud." Danny laughed. Actually laughed. The tension of the last half hour finally breaking loose, and I felt something in my chest release that I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I was home, really home, not just in the building, not just in the city. Home, the way it means something.